Om Vakratunda Mahakaya
Mahakaya
Suryakoti
Suryakoti
Samaprabha
Samaprabha
Nirvignam
Nirvignam Kuru
Kurume
Me
Deva
Deva
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvada
Sarvada
Saraswati
Saraswati
Namastubhyam
Namastubhyam
Varade
Varade
Kamarupini
Kamarupini
Vidyarambam
Vidyarambam
Karishyami
Karishyami
Siddhir
Siddhir
Bhavatu
Bhavatu
Me
Me Sada
Sada
Guru
Gurur
Brahma
Brahma
Guru
Gurur
Vishnu
Vishnu
Guru Devo
Gurudevo
Maheshwaraha
Maheshwaraha Guru
Guru
Sakshat
Sakshat
Param
Param
Brahma
Brahma
Tasmai
Tasmai
Shri
Shri Gurave
Gurave
Namaha
Namaha Om
Om Sahana
Sahana
Vavatu
Bhavatu
Sahano
Sahano
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryan
Sahaviryam
Karavavahai
Karavavahai Tejasvinha
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma
Vadhitamastu
vidvishavahai
Vishavahai Om
Om
Shanti
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 Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Atha Dvitiyodhyayah
Ath Dvitiyodhyayaha
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Sloka number 69 Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam
Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam
Tasyam Jagarti Sanyami
Tasyam Jagarthi Samyami
Yasyam Jagat Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani
Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani
Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune.
Sa Nisha Pashyadho Munehe
In that which is night for all beings, the one who is wise, who has mastery over oneself, is awake. That in which beings are awake is night for the one, for the wise one who sees. This is the meaning. We're going to see it elaborately. And from here we are supposed to. Ignorance and knowledge are like day and night. Bhagavan Krishna talked about the person who is happy with oneself or herself. And since a madman also can be happy with himself, he also pointed out that a step prajna must have knowledge. Recognizing, however, that his description of a wise person was not complete, Bhagavan adds this very interesting shloka. In essence, what he says is that a wise man is like a wise man, and otherwise cannot really understand such a person without becoming wise. A Brahmanishta, a Jnani cannot be understood by another person. Only a Jnani can understand another Jnani. To say a person is a Jnani, one must be a Jnani. That is what here the shloka says. Wise and otherwise. He illustrated his point by saying, what is night for all people is day for a wise person who has a mind and senses within or her. Such a person is called Sanyami. The word Yama means Uparame, means mastery or control over the mind and the senses. Sayama includes both Dhamma and Shama. And Sayami referring to the person who has that mastery along with knowledge. Because here Siddhartha is talked about, it is not just mastery over mind and senses, but also the person has knowledge. Further, Krishna said that which is day for everyone else is night for the wise person, called Muni here. Muni means Manana Shilaha Munihi, one who sees things very clearly, who has got clarity, who has got vision, Samyak Darshanam. Pashyati iti Munihi. For this person of clear vision, the state that everyone else thinks of as day is night. In other words, when all beings are awake, the Sita Prajna sleeps. And when they are asleep, the wise person is awake. Does this mean then that one who is wise is some nocturnal being, like a bat or a thief, who prowls about at night? No, not at all. Just as the darkness of night doesn't allow you to see objects as they are, night here represents darkness, with reference to one's knowledge not being clear. The wise person is awake to what is night for all beings, the night of avidya, ignorance. Night means darkness, that is avidya, ignorance. The wise person is awake. What is night for all beings? The wise person is awake to that. It means ajnanis are ajnani. They don't see things clearly, whereas jnani sees. He has got knowledge. So therefore, there is no ignorance for jnani, whereas there is only ignorance for ajnani. Therefore, ajnani, they don't see things clearly. Therefore, it is night for them. Not seeing things clearly means not a physical seeing. Through the jnana chakshu, they don't have the jnana chakshu, the divine eye, the knowledge of the eye of wisdom. They don't have the eye of wisdom, whereas jnani has. Because of the eye of wisdom, the jnani sees things very clearly, which ajnanis don't see. Therefore, it is night for them. That is the meaning. What is not known to people is called the sleep of night, the sleep of darkness or ignorance, avidya nidra. Here night is nidra, night is ratri. Ratri time, the night time people sleep. But here the sleep is not the physical, literally sleep. It is avidya nidra, the sleep of darkness, ignorance. In the sleep of ignorance, people are like somnambulists, sleepwalkers. Somnambulist means people who walk in sleep. This state is more than just sleep. These people are all dreamers. They are sleeping but awake, just like in dream. They are awake but they are sleeping. In the waking world, they are awake but they are sleeping to the truth. They don't have wisdom, they don't have knowledge, therefore they are as though sleeping, though awake, just like in dream, in the waking state. Whereas Jnani is awake. That is the meaning of this shloka, the first line. They are awake and perform all kinds of activities, but still they are asleep because they are not awake to certain realities. If you are totally asleep or totally awake, you don't have problem. You have no problem. The problem is only when you are half awake. This being a state where mistakes are possible. In dream, a person is partly awake, meaning that there is some projection by the mind. By the mind, the person is not identified with the body and the physical reality, but is identified with memories and thoughts from which a dream world is set up. The reality of duality. In the dream world, Sapna Prapancha, everything is dual, Dvaita for the person. The knower is distinct from the known. The known is distinct from the knower. And the knowledge, of course, is distinct from the knower, being something that knower has and for which there is distinct object, the known. So there is Dvaita, Jnata, Jneyam, and Jnanam. So Dvaita, this division in dream is reality for the dreamer. For the dreamer, it is real. But upon waking, all the three, the knower, the Jnata, the known, Jneyam, and the knowledge, Jnanam, they become one and the same when he wakes up from the sleep. The known objects in the dream are not separate from knowledge. The knowledge is not separate from the knower, and the knower is not separate from the waker. All the three that belong to the dream resolve into the waker when the person who is dreaming wakes up. The waker was a knower, known, and the knowledge in the dream. In the dream, there three were there. All the three resolves into the waker. The knower is a waker. This is why one says, I dreamt. The Atma, the self of the knower that obtained in the dream, obtains also in the waking state as evidenced by the expression of experience as I dreamt, I was the one who was dreaming. So therefore the waker was the one who was sleeping, who was in this sleep state is a sleeper. The sleeper is a waker. So it is a sleeper. It is the sleeper who had who is the dreamer who had the dream experience, and the dreamer resolved into the waker, and the waker remembers the dream of the dreamer. So it means the waker and dreamer, they are not different. That's why he says, I dreamt, I was the one who was dreaming. In the dream, however, everything is a reality. Even the Veda recognizes duality, addressing you as a doer, a karta. Shankaracharya discusses this in his commentary to this shloka. The Veda tells you to perform certain karmas and also tells you what you will gain by doing them. There are very specific differences mentioned also. It says this karma will produce this result if it is done in this manner by this person at this time. Thus, rituals to be performed are set out in the Veda, all of which implies duality because it addresses a karta who is different from the karma it does. The Veda that says you are the non-dual Brahma addresses you in the earlier section as a person who wants certain results and who is going to get these results later. The connection between the person and the results is established by performing certain prescribed rituals, the result of which is punya. The punya is what connects a person to the result. The people, the rituals, the results are all different, therefore constitute duality. So Karmakanda of the Veda is there. It means it recognizes the duality of the empirical reality. Your perception also tells you that one object is different from another object. This is our anubhava, prataksha anubhava. Perception gives rise to different types of knowledge, and based on that knowledge, you conclude that everything is different from you. The first part of the Shruti, as we have seen, that is Karmakanda, also confirms this difference by addressing you as a doer and not as Param Brahma. If the Veda were to address you as Param Brahma, it could not ask you to perform action. Thus, it can only address you as a doer. The Shruti deals with the person who is available right now. You are now a doer, and that doer is addressed. Furthermore, the doer is told that he or she will be an enjoyer later if certain karmas are performed. If they are not done or not done properly, the person will have problems later. Even if a wrong action is done, the doer will still be an enjoyer, but the enjoyment will not be very pleasant. In this way, the Shruti keeps the person in view and talks about what is good and bad for the person, what should be done and what should be avoided. Thus, it looks as though the Shruti is for the doer alone, and that duality is a reality. Dvaitam is the Siddhanta. It looks as though that is a teaching of the Veda. Naturally, then the person looks upon himself or herself in the waking state as someone different from the world, just as in the dream. This is what is meant by the sleep of ignorance. Because of ignorance alone, the person is said to be sleeping. Sleeping here means that one is a dreamer. The person is not totally sleeping. He or she is awake doing certain activities. There is even a valid pramanam available to the person, enabling him or her to know certain actions are right and others are wrong. As long as the sleep of ignorance continues, everything is valid for the person in the waking state, just as it is in the dream. One doer is different from every other doer, and one enjoyer is different from every other enjoyer. The physical body is a place of enjoyment, the counter of experience from which you encounter the world. It is a point from which one operates. You are an enjoyer, and a mosquito is also an enjoyer, you being the object of its enjoyment. Thus, you find there are many enjoyers and different kinds of enjoyments. There are different doers and different types of doing, all of which are valid. Therefore, pain and pleasure are valid. That I am a small person is valid. That I am someone who is struggling to prove myself to be somebody is valid. That the struggle never comes to an end is also valid. In spite of that being valid, but what the reality is Advaitam, the reality of oneness. Everything seems to be valid to those who see themselves as distinct. But amidst all this validity, one thing alone is not known. What is that? Paramartha Tattvam. The word Tattva means reality, and Paramartha Tattva is the ultimate reality, absolute reality. That which is the essential reality of everything. The differences that seem so real in dream and waking have no independent reality apart from this essential reality. Paramarthika Tattvam. What is essentially there is only one thing, and that is what I am. Tat Agam Asmi. The knower is myself, the known is myself, and the knowledge is myself. The doer is myself, the doing is myself, and the done is myself. The world is myself, and the knower of the world is also myself. That all the three, knower, known, and knowledge, are myself, is an entirely different vision altogether. In reality, there is no difference whatsoever. This Veda is not the reality. That is the truth. That is the Satyam. For a wise person, for a jnani, who sees things clearly, the Paramatha Tattva is one thing alone, and it is oneself. It is one thing, and it is himself. The Paramatha Tattva is not recognized by those who are not wise, who are otherwise. For them, everything is real. Dvaitam is real. Whereas for Jnani, Advaitam is the real. This means that there is more than one reality for such people with Ajnanis, which is why the world is always too much for them. To think that everyone is different from you means that everyone is as real as you are. Words too will have their own reality, so that everything is as real as everything else. Naturally, then you find a world which is dual. In other words, you experience samsara. Samsara is nothing but that the reality, the empirical reality is real. Taking the empirical reality, the transactional reality to be real, absolutely real, is what is samsara. While others are in this great sleep of ignorance, others means ajnanis, the wise person is awake to the paramartha tattva. He or she is awake to the reality of the I, the knowledge of which nullifies the division between the knower and the known, since in reality there is no division, there is no dvaitam. Therefore, I am all of this. Aham idam sarvam. Previously, I was only one among the many. Now, the vision is that immanently I am everything, and transcendentally I am free from everything. To this fact, the wise person, Sayami, is awake. So, the awake is the Sayami, the wise person, is awake to the Paramata Tattva, whereas Ajnani are they are asleep to this Paramata Tattva, to the knowledge of this Paramata Tattva. Comparison is not possible. Those who are not wise are awake only to divisions. These divisions are very real for such people. That is second line. These divisions are very real for such people, whereas for the wise person, for the person of inquiry, vichara, whose vision is very clear, samyak darshanam, any division is night. Any division is night. Second line of the shloka, meaning. The samsara that people complain about, he or she doesn't see at all. Whereas Ajnani sees samsara. Whereas Jnani doesn't see samsara. Where is samsara? There is no dvaitam. One person may say, I am sad, but the wise person doesn't see any sadness. Others complain that the world is too much for them, but the wise person doesn't find it to be so. It is not that the world is too much. You are too much. You are everything. Therefore, I am limitless. Aham Purnaha is a vision for the wise person, whereas the other people say, I am limited. Whereas other people say, I am limited. Aham Apurnaha, not Purnaha. Aham Apurnaha. This is their vision, which for the wise person is like night, because this is not their understanding at all. What is day to everyone is night for the wise. And what is night for everyone else is like day for the wise. Thus, wise are wise and otherwise are otherwise. The otherwise do not know the wise, and the wise do not see like the otherwise, because night and day do not meet, they don't coexist, one being the opposite of the other. When the day breaks, night is gone. When the night comes, day is gone. The day always ensures that night has gone before it comes. This is the role of the dawn. Lord Sun tells the dawn, Aruna, the messenger of the sun, to go and make sure that the way is clear. Dawn then comes and clears the way. Thus, before the sun comes, night has already gone. In this way, the sun and the night do not meet. Here is my story about why the sun rises every morning. Narada, who is often found in mythological stories, was able to go to the gods without any particular passport or visa. Or one could say that he had a cosmic passport, as it were, since he could go from one world, where it's one loka, to another loka. In this particular story, Narada went from the earth to the sun. The sun asked Narada what the people thought of him on earth. Oh Lord Sun, Narada responded, in India they do salutations to you in the early morning. Do you not see that when you come up? Nowadays few people, very few do it, the sun replied. In the past they did, but not now. But what is it that they say about me? Narada told him that everyone praises the sun, that when the sun comes out, everyone is happy. You are always praised everywhere, O sun, except, of course, in the Sahara Desert and Saudi Arabia. What did you see that you liked on the earth? The sun asked Narada. In response, Narada told him that there was one person whom he thought the sun should see someone that he had never seen before. Everyone praises you as omniscient, but I would have to say that you are not omniscient because there is someone I think you have never seen. What? The sun exclaimed. I am not omniscient. I am the sun. I see everything. Who is it that you think I have not seen? There is one lady called Miss Darkness. Narada told him. Where is this Miss Darkness? The sun then asked. You can see her on the earth, the Narada replied. Where will I find her right now? As a sun. She is in India. If you go there, you will see her. Narada told him. Eager to see Miss Darkness, the sun rose in the eastern sky. But Miss Darkness had gone to the west, to the antipodes, the opposite side of the globe. The sun then became angry. He really wanted to meet this woman, so he set out after her again. But when he went to the antipodes, Miss Darkness had already gone to the other side. And when he went to that side, she was again on the opposite side. In this way, the sun continued to move around, trying to find Miss Darkness, and is still doing so even today. When he comes to the east, Miss Darkness goes to the west. When he goes to the west, she comes to the east. They never meet each other, just as day and night never meet each other, because they are the opposites. You cannot even compare the two. Thus, it can only be said that the sun is like the sun and darkness is like the darkness. Therefore, who is a jnani? Nobody can say who is a jnani. Only a jnani can say. Only jnani can identify a jnani. So too, a wise person is like a wise person, which means that no comparison is possible. Therefore, Arjuna did not become wiser by Krishna's statement. For the wise person, what is reality is limitless. Oneself being everything is reality. The reality is that Ishvara is myself. For other people, Ishvara is located somewhere, in heaven perhaps, and it's only a matter of belief. He sends people down and then meddles in their affairs, they think. People have so many kinds of beliefs because for them, the statement, I am everything, is not a reality. Therefore, there are all kinds of conjectures, speculations, faiths, and beliefs. We find that for the ignorant, ajnanis, everything is guesswork. Whereas for the jnani, the wise person, there is no problem. The jnani sees no problem at all. Whereas for the other person, that is ajnanis, everything is a problem. For the wise person, everything is a glory. The physical body, the mind, and the world, all are glories, vibhutis. My glories, mama vibhutayaha. I am the food eaten, agamannam. And again, I am also the eater of the food, agam annadaha. I am the thinker and I am the object of thought. I am free from all this also. The ignorant are asleep to this vision of the reality, and the wise are asleep to what the ignorant are awake. This is something like one person seeing a snake and another person seeing a rope in the same object. The person seeing the snake sweats and shivers in fear. Even the sound of the snake's rattle is heard by this person in spite of the fact that there is no snake. There is only a rope mistaken for a snake. Once a snake is seen, everything else comes along with it. The sound of the rattle, the sight of its head rising, and so on. For this person, snake is a reality, whereas for the other person, all that is there is a piece of rope. And he or she doesn't see what the frightened person is fretting about. The one who sees a rope as rope will either treat the other person with compassion or simply walk away because he or she doesn't see a problem. Even if a person is told that there is a snake, he or she will only reply that there is no snake, there is only the rope. To know a wise person, you need to be wise. This is strictly a matter of two different visions. How then is Arjuna is going to understand a wise person? Krishna was saying here that he could only do so by being wise. There's no other way. Being ignorant, you won't understand a wise person. In fact, there is really no such thing as a wise person. Wisdom is you. You are the wisdom. The wise person is one who knows himself or herself. And if you know yourself, you are a wise person. And until you know yourself, how are you going to understand a wise person? To be a wise person, you have to be wise. There's no other way than of knowing the wise person. In response to Arjuna's request for a description of a wise person, Lord Krishna told him the shloka under study that it takes wisdom alone to be a wise person. The wise person is a wise person. He or she is awake to a reality to which everyone else is sleeping. This answer could only have created despair in Arjuna because he wanted to know the characteristics of a wise person so that by emulating them, he himself could become wise. The sleep of ignorance that prevents one from knowing a wise person was explained further by Shankaracharya in his commentary on this shloka. For the wise person, there is no activity because he or she no longer takes himself or herself to be the doer. This applies not only to the performance of Vedic rituals and prayers, Vedika Vyavahara, but to worldly activities also, Laukika Vyavahara as well, such as eating, cooking, dishwashing, bathing, laundering, vacuuming, and conducting business. The notions, I am doing this, I am the doer, are no longer there. To perform action, I have to know I am a doer. When you look upon yourself as a doer, you perform rituals. And if you don't perform them, you will do something else. And this something else may incur sin. With reference to the performance of rituals, then the Veda only addresses a person who takes on himself or herself to be the doer. A brahmachari, a student, has to have the notion, I am a brahmachari, in order to perform the karma enjoined for brahmacharis by the Veda. If a brahmana is enjoined to do certain karma, then the person doing it must look upon himself or herself as a brahmana. The same thing applies to other varnas and ashramas. The Veda doesn't say Sachit Ananda should perform karma. It says that a brahmana, a brahmachari, or a married person, grihastha, should perform karmas. Karma then is enjoyed only for the one who looks upon oneself as something or other, such as I am this and that, etc. It is not meant for the person who has jnana, in whom self-knowledge has taken place. Once this knowledge has dawned, it stays. Self-knowledge is not a dawning knowledge. It is a fully blazing midday sun. In the wake of this knowledge, worldly and scriptural karmas both go away because all activity, all vivahara is born out of the notion, Aham Karta, I am the doer. Unless you consider yourself as a doer, you cannot perform scriptural or worldly activity, Shastriya or Lokika activities. Activity itself being a product of ajnanam, self-ignorance. But for the one who has self-knowledge, this ignorance is not there. And thus it is said that the Vyavahara, all the activities also goes away. Knowledge removes the sense of the notion of doership. Does knowledge remove the product of ignorance or does it remove the ignorance itself? Shankara deals with this question in his commentary on this shloka. When knowledge takes place, the ignorance is removed. This knowledge, which is of the nature of a discriminative understanding between the real and the unreal, Atma Anatma Viveka Jnana, is opposed to ignorance, Ajnana. Thus, when self-knowledge takes place, self-ignorance goes away. And when ignorance goes away, its roots, its products also go away. To take the classic example of seeing the rope as a snake, ignorance of the rope produces a snake. When the rope ignorance goes away, the snake also goes away. And when we may ask, does the rope ignorance go? When the rope is seen, when it is known, when it is known. Rope ignorance will go only in the wake of rope knowledge. Therefore, rope knowledge is opposite of rope ignorance. When rope ignorance goes, anything that was there due to that ignorance will also go. Because when the cause of the problem is removed, the symptoms also disappear. Similarly, for the person who has knowledge, all activity is gone. Such a person becomes a sarva karma sannyasi, one who renounces all karma. Kartrutvam is gone. He is sarva karma sannyasi. The Veda sets out the karmas that have to be done, and Shankaracharya clarifies as to who has to do them. The person who has such notions: I am a brahmachari, I am a brahmana, I am a married person, I am bound by time, spring, new moon day, full moon day, morning, evening, ityadi, etc. The one who has these kinds of notions about himself or herself, the one who thinks he or she is time bound, place bound, and group bound, is a person whom the Shruti, the Veda, addresses with reference to the performance of rituals. If the person knows I am Satchit Ananda, the Shruti doesn't address him or her at all. In fact, it says you are Satchit Ananda. But it reserves this particular statement for the last chapter, which is what we call Vedanta. Until then, the Veda talks exclusively about rituals and meditation, all of which are Dvaita, dual. Only at the end of all this does it say, you are that Brahma, Tat Tvam Asi. Why should I perform karma? The question then may be asked, why did the Shruti not say this in the beginning? If it had done so, I need not have done all this karma. I did the morning and evening prayers because the Veda said to do them, and I had faith in the Veda. Now I find that these karmas have become a colossal waste because at the end of it all, the Veda tells me that I am Brahma and that karma is of no use. If karma will not give me moksha, then why did it not say so in the beginning? The reason the Veda doesn't tell you right in the beginning that you are Brahma is because you have to be ready for this knowledge. By performing karma, you are able to eventually get to the last chapter of the Veda and understand what it says. By not performing karma, you will neither be a jnani nor a devout person. You will only be a driftwood with no moorings whatsoever. The rule is that those who are not ready for the knowledge should not be disturbed with it. Na buddhivedam janayet, ajnanam karma sangina. Later, Bhagavan Krishna says. We will see this later in the chapter, in the Gita. Instead, people are encouraged to perform karma in order to prepare their minds for the knowledge. They are told about Swarga even in the beginning, so that they will perform the enjoined rituals for the gaining Swarga Loka. In this way, they will definitely avoid Papa and Punya. They will avoid Papa and Punya will fall. The person who performs karma will have a value for dharma, adharma, right and wrong, and will come to believe that there is an Atma, a self, other than the body. That much is enough in the beginning. Once you respect dharma, dharma, the ability to discriminate between real and unreal will not be far behind. To respect dharma, adharma is not to be swayed away by your ragadveshas. Therefore, the pressure of ragadveshas will be less. This is what is meant by viveka. Viveka begins as soon as you start to question what is what. First, there is an internal leisure, and then viveka naturally comes. Once viveka is there, you will naturally turn to Vedanta. Only in this way you can proceed properly. Therefore, as long as self-ignorance is there, one should perform karma. Whereas once there is self-knowledge, there is renunciation of karma, sarva karma sannyasa. Shankaracharya repeats this argument throughout his commentary on the Gita. This is because there was a notion prevalent in his day that the Veda enjoins one to do karma and at the same time to gain the knowledge that I am Brahman. This position maintains that both will give you moksha and is refuted by Shankaracharya at every opportunity. This is what we call jnana karma samuchayavada. Or if either karma or jnana is adequate for moksha, why should anyone do the other? If moksha is everything that I produce, why do I need a jnana? And if karma is not going to produce moksha, then there is no reason to do karma. If I am Brahma and I merely need to know it, which is Shankaracharya's contention, then jnanam is moksha. Then I don't need to do anything. Thus, the question, why should one do karma? The answer is that one performs karma in order to purify the mind for antakarana shuddhi, chitta shuddhi. Chitta meaning mind. We have seen the word shuddhi with reference to ragadveshas. Reality is already accomplished. It is not something to be created. Reality is, reality is. Whatever the reality, that is what it is. It is a thing to be recognized. Therefore, even if you do millions of karmas, you don't create the reality that exists. Because of the prevalence in Shankaracharya's time of the synthesis argument, Samuchayavada, of combining karma and jnana, he goes all out to clarify the difference between karma and jnana. There are certain topics that every teacher has to highlight, even the views of his or her time. In Shankaracharya's time, the Jnana Karma Samuchayavada, the contention that moksha is not gained by knowledge alone, but by a combination of knowledge and action, was widespread. Therefore, he found it necessary to refute it by continually pointing out the fallacies in it. This is the job of a teacher. Here also, Shankaracharya points out that karma applied only until knowledge comes. For one who doesn't have knowledge, the karma enjoined by the Veda is a valid praman, whereas for the wise person, it is not. Once the jnanam is there, the person is a simple sannyasi, one who is not a doer, and therefore for whom no karma is enjoyed by any shastra. The long commentary will continue. We'll do this in the next class. We'll stop here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवादः.